G'day everyone, it's Taylor MB here, and today I'm going to be showing you my defensive set comparison for Clockwork City Update, specifically for PvP, and for CP and no CP. Now if you're seeing this video for the first time on YouTube, then in the description I'll have a link to both the forum post and the Google Sheets that you can edit yourself. If you're seeing this for the first time on the forums, then you've got all the information you need right in front of you. So to use this Google Sheets, the bare minimum you need to do is this red inputs box here. You need to enter the opponent penetration, opponent crit damage modifier, opponent crit chance. The base for crit damage modifier is 1.5 as well while I'm here. Your average base resistance, just take the average between your spell and physical, make sure you're buffed up, but do not include any of the sets that you're wearing if they feature later. Your base critical resistance, and your current HP. This current HP is only if you're interested in Mark of the Pariah. And if you're unsure about any of these values here, you can jump down to these green boxes and they'll help you calculate them. The first green box is just a list of resistances, but it does have Bloodspawn uptime. So if you care about comparing Bloodspawn to the other defensive sets, then just put in an appropriate uptime in that box there. The second green box is penetration sources. So what I've got here currently, this is my no CP Magsork setup, and has 9.7k penetration. So we're not using weakness to elements. We don't have a power of the light or something else that gives minor resistance buffs. We are wearing light armor. We're in one hand sharpened. No champion points because this is my no CP setup. We are wearing spinners and we're not using Lover Mundus. And that gives us quite a high 9.7k penetration. Crit damage modifiers. This one isn't based off my Magsork builds because as you can see I've got champion points in there. And so just when it asks for yes or no, just put Y or N. When it asks for a percentage, put a percentage, and a flat value, just put a flat value. And then crit resistance sources on the right. Now you don't have to use these green boxes, you can just make up approximate values to put into the inputs, but if you're unsure about where some of these values come from and what's possible and what's not possible, then you're more than welcome to use the 3 green boxes there. And my formulas in Google Sheets do have conditions to stop things like over and under penetration, or go in over crit resistance, for example. So you don't have to worry too much about that. You can just make up any values you want, and it should pump out the correct results. There may have been one or two where I didn't put all the conditions in because it seemed unlikely that you'd be able to go past them, but that will be obvious when that happens. And then finally, we're going to pump out the summary here. Unfortunately, Google Sheets does not have dynamic chart titling, so if you want to share this graph with anyone, you just have to copy down the right hand side here this information, and that's automatically updated with what you based on the inputs, so you don't have to change that at all. Or you can take a screenshot and edit that with like Paint or something and put your own values in there. Just something quickly to note with this. Even though a lot of these are very close together in percentage points, and that's a good thing, personally I think ZeniMax has done a good job at balancing defensive sets. Don't be 1 or 2 percentage points difference, even though it might not seem like much, is actually a huge difference to the amount of damage that you've received. So the example I used on the forums, I just used one set gives 90% mitigation, another set gives 91% mitigation, just for easy math. Even though there's only 1 percentage point difference between those two, the one that gives 91% mitigation is blocking 10% more damage. So that's just something to keep in mind when you're looking at the values that are outputted here, especially the not blocking values, which are all naturally very closely together. And so now to what I found to be the best sets. Like I said, ZeniMax has done a good job of balancing defensive sets, and there's not one that is always on top in every scenario. So for Magicka users, I would recommend Wizard's Riposte as being the number one. It's not always the highest damage mitigation, but it's always either very close to the highest or the highest. And the 2 to 4 set piece bonuses, unlike a lot of the other sets, are actually incredibly useful for Magicka users. So Wizard's Riposte, 100% recommend for any Magicka users. The only downside is that it falls into the minor and major buff system. So if anyone else is using minor main, then your set basically becomes useless. So Nightblades and DKs both have minor main, Frost Staff users have minor main, and I'm sure there's Sword and Board users, they have access to minor main. So if you've got any of those things happening around you, it diminishes the effectiveness of your set. So that's just something to keep in mind with Wizard's Riposte. It's amazing solo, but group play, you do have to coordinate with the people around you. For a stamina set, I would choose Impregnable. But this does change based on the scenario. If you're in CP and you're versing a lot of Nightblades, Impregnable comes out on top. If you're versing a lot of Magsorks or any light armor wearing character, then Impregnable comes out on top, just because light armor with Magicka has that extra penetration. However, if you're mainly fighting low skill Zergers, or find yourself in no CP Cyrodiil, then Fortified Brass starts looking very, very attractive. Or Armor Master as well. That gives slightly more resistances. It gives 5% more hit points, but it does have that condition of slotting an armor ability. And unfortunately, we can't slot Shuffle and Immovable now. So Armor Master did take a bit of a nerf there. So in no CP, where your crit chance, your crit damage modifier, and your penetration are naturally going to be a lot lower, then Fortified Brass starts doing a lot more mitigation than all the other sets. However, you're still going to be pretty vulnerable to Nightblades, who every time they cloak are going to guarantee a crit on you, and Standblades also have one of the easiest accesses to Major Fracture. So, Fortified Brass, you can give that a try in no CP, but you are still going to be vulnerable to Nightblades, and you won't be able to use that same setup if you go to Battlegrounds or CP Cyrodiil. So my main stamina recommendation would be Impregnable, but Fortified Brass is better in those specific situations. And then I've just got some group sets here, Transmutation and some Monster Helms, just to help you guys compare them as well. Obviously they're not going to give you higher than any of the 5 pieces, but I just thought it'd be useful to have that there for you to see. And that is everything in the video. So hopefully you can learn something from this and find out what your best set to wear is for your build, for the opponents you're versing. Give the forum post a read. Might have some different information. I probably missed something in the video, so you can go there and see. Leave me a comment. Ask me any questions. Let me know if any of my explanation sucks. And please do, if there are any math-minded people out there, please do check my calculations. Because like I said, I've been working on this since Morrowind. And to put in all those conditions to avoid over and under penetration type thing, the Excel formulas do end up getting quite messy. Let's just take a look at that. So even though it's a reasonably simple formula, it's got a lot of layered if statements to make sure that there's no under or over penetration. So yeah, hope you guys enjoyed, learned something new. Leave a comment, let me know if I can do anything better or if you'd like something specific you want me to work on. Have a great day, guys.